Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm giving you an honest review of the hotels and VRBOs that we stayed at during our 13-night trip to Italy. Now, let's be upfront here. We could have found more affordable options, but we were really concerned about all the cancellations we'd heard about when booking through third-party bookings. I was following a bunch of Facebook groups and people were saying that they were getting canceled on, and so that was what my fear was. The last thing I wanted to do was be stranded, especially traveling with our kids ages 7, 9, 12, and 13. So we opted for places with the best reviews in prime locations, sort of, even though it was a bit pricier. In total, it cost us $11,382 for the entire trip, so about $875 a night for the 6 of us. So here's what we thought about each of our stays, and I'll go ahead and link down to all of the different places that we stayed on our trip. Our first stop was Rome. Our stay started at the Intercontinental Hotel, which was super fancy. We're IHG ambassador members, so that cost around 40,000 points through our credit card. I learned about credit card churning, which will be a separate video. I was able to book it using 100,000 points to be exact. Now, I was in Europe for work, but the family arrived right after my work trip at 8 a.m. And since I was an ambassador member, I got late checkout at 4 p.m. So I had this one bedroom that was super fancy, and then the kids were actually able to take a nap between like 10 o'clock and 4 p.m. until we were able to actually check out to the next hotel. Now, let me be honest, the hotel was beautiful, but we didn't make the most of the amenities because we were out basically taking a nap or planning on going to the next hotel. It's definitely a luxury hotel, but we didn't need all the frills. The whole goal behind staying at the Intercontinental was the late checkout because our flights or our family's flights arrived at 8 a.m. And so if you don't take a nap after like an 8 to 10 hour flight and you arrive at 8 a.m., it's going to be hard pressed to get a bunch of little kids ready to explore that day. Next, we moved to the ALF Hilton Curio in Rome, which is literally about a block away. It was less than like a 5-minute walk. And while it had its great perks, like the rooftop pool that had amazing views and kids absolutely loved it, even though it was a smaller pool, there were some downsides. First off, the AC was pretty terrible. Like for being as much as it was, we expected the AC to at least work better. And so we actually had a 2-bedroom suite, and the hotel itself was beautiful, but again, a bit far from the city center. It took us about 20 minutes to walk to places like the Trevi Fountain, which was fine, but it wasn't as central as we'd hoped. The pool was a huge hit, and the kids had a blast, and the breakfast was pretty great as well. It was like our second best breakfast when we were there. Now, the total cost here was $3,907 for 2 nights. It's kind of pricey, like a lot pricey. Now, after Rome, we took a train to Florence, one of those fast trains, and that was pretty awesome. And we stayed at the VRBO called Casa Beldon. It was a probably 10-minute walk from the train station. This was a 3-bedroom penthouse with an elevator located in the historic city center near the Duomo Santa Maria Novella district. The photos of the VRBO made it look more luxurious than it was in person, but it was still a great base for our 3 nights. The AC here worked perfectly, unlike the hotel, which was a relief after Rome, and we had a washing machine, but it was air dry only. We booked it through VRBO, but then we realized that we could rent directly from Luca Apartments and Villas, which is what we did. And the total cost for 4 nights, we only stayed 3, was $2,312. There was a minimum stay of 4 nights, so that's why we only stayed for 3. It had everything we needed, including an elevator, which was a lifesaver after a long day of walking around Florence. After Florence, we went to Lucca and stayed at Casa Gina Urban Retreat for 2 nights. We booked this through the same place as Florence. This place was as stunning as the photos showed. 2-bedroom, 2 bathrooms, and that meant that 2 of the kids were sleeping on a fold-out sofa. I mean, my 7-year-old and 9-year-old were fine on the sofa. The only downside was that the washer and dryer couldn't run at the same time as the AC going full blast, which was annoying in the heat of summer when we were visiting Italy. But otherwise, it was fantastic. The Wi-Fi was great. The location was perfect. It was just outside the city walls and only a 10-minute walk, if that, from the train station. And it was a lifesaver when we overslept one morning and we had to catch the train to our basically cooking class. The total cost for 2 nights was $682, the most affordable one of them all. And it was well worth it for the comfort and convenience. Now on to one of our favorite stops, which was Monte Rosso and Cinque Terre. Originally, we wanted to stay at the Hotel Pascal, which is right by the sea, but it was fully booked. So we ended up going to Hotel Porto Roca, which is up on this cliff. I did a full review on it. It was a bit of a splurge at $3,090 for 3 nights for 2 bedrooms. And we had to do 2 bedrooms because they could only fit 3 and 3. This hotel offered a beautiful, luxurious experience with breathtaking views. We had a balcony view in our room. The rooms were kind of dated, but all the amenities made up for it, including the free beach access, which is generally like $80 a family. At least that was what we were quoted. And then also the infinity pool was absolutely amazing. The only downside is that this thing is on a 1/4 mile uphill, and it's like a pretty big steep uphill. So if you have any types of handicaps in terms of walking, like that might be like an issue for you, but they do have a free shuttle. The rooms were just okay, but the breakfast was pretty amazing here. It was probably one of the better breakfasts that we had, and the views for breakfast is absolutely amazing. So overall, I've done a whole separate video on this hotel, so be sure to check that out. Our final stop was Venice, where we stayed at a VRBO that overlooked the canal. It was above a restaurant called Casa Bonita, which we actually loved, but we were like followed by bees. That was a whole different story that I'll talk about later. It was a great food, fun atmosphere. The VRBO was, although a bit further from the city center that we would have liked, it took us about 40 minutes to walk to St. Mark's Square. But we enjoyed the area. The hostess was super helpful, giving us great tips. There's a great breakfast place that has amazing croissants. I think it's called Al Parlamenta or something. It is delicious. But specific to the VRBO, the AC worked perfectly, which was a huge relief in Venice's summer heat. There is an accordion player that was downstairs at the restaurants that play like across the canal and under the canal. It was awesome. Just to hear that. And then the cost was pretty okay, $2,073 for 2 nights. But despite the distance from all of the attractions, I definitely recommend it if you don't mind the walk. And it was far from everything. It was peaceful. We absolutely had a blast there. Okay, so let's talk cost now. Here's the full breakdown. Intercontinental was free. ALF Hilton Curio Rome. It was $3,900 for 2 nights. Casa Beldon in Florence, $2,300 for 4 nights, even though we stayed 3. Casa Gina in Lucca, $682 for 2 nights, the cheapest of them all. Porto Rocco in Monterosso for 2 rooms for 3 nights, $3,000. And then Venice VRBO, $2,073 for 2 nights. Now, that's in total $11,382 for 13 nights for a family of 6. Yes, it is pricey, but we prioritize reliable bookings and prime locations, kind of. And overall, we feel like we've got a good value for our money. If you're traveling with kids and looking for comfort, convenience, peace of mind, these are definitely places I would highly consider, except for ALF Hilton Curio. For more details on the stay, be sure to check out the link to my blog in the description where I break down each of the hotels even further. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more honest travel reviews for a family of 6.